Oh, it's cold. Hello, uglies. Welcome to my channel. My name is Jer, and we are going to be talking about the Boulet brothers Dragula, episode 5 of season 5. And this was the Gods of Death part 2. So as you all know by now, Jarvis Hammer is out of the competition, and honestly, I'm shocked. I'm gagged. I am gag-aroni and cheese. I thought that Jarvis was going to make it to top like 6, maybe. I really thought that Jarvis was going to go significantly farther than he did. And I'm still pretty shocked that he's not here anymore. And it's very distinct that his energy is missing in the laboratory. So everyone is kind of gagged too that Jay is still around. Cynthia is really going in on JK about that flip off. And to be completely honest, that felt like a part of the performance. It was a punk song that involved a punk attitude. And Jay flipped everyone off. It wasn't disrespectful. It was a part of the number. There are performers that put water in their mouth and spit it at the audience. I know performers that have dropped like glitter and rhinestones and things in people's food and drinks at bars. That's disrespectful. Flipping somebody off during a punk song is not disrespectful. And again, I find myself so exhausted with these little microaggressions that keep happening to JK. It really just is starting to get to a point where I can't even justify why it might be happening, because it just feels like targeted abuse at Jay. And it doesn't seem like, oh, well, they're obviously beefing about something. Not that I was forgiving it before, but on some level, I think a lot of us could look at it and be like, oh, maybe they're just mad because of the abrasiveness at the beginning and it hasn't worn off yet. But after all of this back and forth and all this drama that's happening, it really just feels like really insidious microaggression racism. You know what I mean? So the challenge is Battle of the Bands. And I want to be honest and vulnerable on the podcast today. I don't like this challenge. This is not my favorite challenge. I don't understand why people turn up to it. I don't know if anybody turns up to it. If you turn up to it, please tell me why. But I understand that it's a staple. I just don't enjoy it. I really don't like group challenges in general, and especially when they're sort of musical based. So anyway, this challenge is a thing that happened. They had to go and record vocals that were going to be featured on the Boulet's single. But spoiler alert, I didn't hear anybody's voices. Maybe the recording was so bad that they just couldn't use anyone. That's the only thing that I can think of, is that they just could not use a singular bit of those vocals, especially Neo screaming incoherently. So they just put it all like maybe at a 1 and then kept Drac and Swan at a 99. And we're like, there'll be nice background vocals. I just don't know. Right off the get, I was worried about Teamwork Gothic. It really seemed like they didn't work. And I think that Orc really put it well, that he said that they were passionate and that's how they were going to drive everything forward. And I'm starting to understand Orc's very twisted mind of looking at each situation, each challenge, not only what the Boulets have given them, but just what life does, and thinking around it. It's such a cool and interesting way of living your life, that you look at conflict between two people and say, you've got a lot of passion that's here. We're gonna take that passion and we're gonna drive that into something productive. We're not gonna allow whatever this is to interfere. We're gonna take the baseline emotions and use that as a driving force forward. And that's crazy to me. That is so wild to me, because my brain does not work that way. I would look at a headbutt like that and I would think, this is gonna tank my energy and I don't know how I'm gonna move past this, because all I'm gonna be thinking about is how they don't wanna work together and I don't wanna work with them not working together. So the fact that Orc thought around this was so cool, and honestly makes me like Orc a little bit more. And I know I was feeling like a certain way after the drink thing, but the fact that they incorporated the drink thing into the performance was really clever and well done. I enjoyed that. That was smart. I thought their practice went good. They sounded good vocally. It really seemed like after all the drama in the laboratory that they were like, all right, it is go time. We are not going to be at the bottom because of this. And unsurprisingly, I should say, Team Fantasia was the one that fell apart. And honestly, I'm going to credit that to Fantasia being such a pillar in who she is as her own point of view, and Anna being so reserved and quiet all season, Neil being so reserved and quiet all season. And to be honest, I think that Blackberry overcompensates a little bit too much, to a point of maybe overconfidence in what she's doing, which is not a bad thing for a competition. You should be overconfident. And I think that all of those things in a soup did not mesh together well, and this cauldron just boiled over. So now let's get into the actual challenge, because Team Chaotic was so good. The performance was incredible. I love that you could see Orc through the whole thing. It felt like an Orc production. It really felt to me like Orc was the leader and made sure that everyone visually was cohesive. And I thought that was important. But not only were they cohesive, but they also had elements of themselves. You could really see them shining through what Orc had created for them. And I thought those headpieces really felt like something you would see in an actual stage performance of some like horror, filth, disgusting rock band that was really underground and was kind of just coming up through the gay bars and trying to make a name for themselves. I feel like you could see that. And I thought that was cool. And then Hell's Foreplay. I mean, so much was already said in the episode, and I don't need to regurgitate a lot of it, but it felt to me a little overplayed. It felt like, yes, of course, a vampire challenge, and you put in fangs and a cape and went blah. I just didn't really see the creativity. I think the other big problem for me was that I know the Boulets thought that Blackberry really shined. I didn't notice Blackberry at all until they started focusing that dialogue on her. I didn't notice Anna there. I thought that Neo looked so clunky. And while Fantasia looked great, she was the only one that I was looking at, because she placed herself dead in the center and everyone else was kind of behind her. If that was an album cover, Fantasia would have been the front and everyone would have been super blurred behind them and would have been an afterthought. That's kind of what it felt like to me, was that Fantasia said, well, I'm the leader. I'm in charge, so I'm the front and center. And the others are kind of off on their own. And everyone was doing their own thing. And on some level, that is good that you're supposed to stand out, but you're not supposed to cuck your teammates along the way. It felt like that. And on top of it, I thought the looks for everybody was just sort of basic. So in my opinion, I think that all four of them should have been up for extermination. I still think that the results would have been the exact same way. I don't think it would have changed at all, but I do think that the extermination would have gone the way that it did. And that gets us to kind of the sad part of the episode, and this is a short one because there really isn't that much to dissect look-wise, is that my queen, my goddess, my angel, my love, my light, the person that I was so excited about seeing on this season, Anaphylactic, is now out. So the extermination challenge was the classic get a tattoo challenge, and Anna got a tramp stamp. Neo was complaining the whole time. So I really thought that like Neo was gonna be out. In my head, I thought, well, Neo's complaining way too much. And that's not the point of the challenge. Anna's really taking like a trooper, and Anna's excited and wants the biggest one. Anna really wants to go there and prove why she wants to stay, where Neo's sort of like, oh, I don't like it. So I thought in my head, well, maybe that's gonna be a big ding. But then at the same token, I really just don't think that anyone would have survived in the bottom with her. I think if they had put Fantasia in the bottom with Neo, Fantasia would have gone home. The reality is that Neo's had 4 tops in a row. 4 tops in a row is unbeatable. And I know that track record does not matter to the Boulets when they're considering who's gonna be sent home. There have been plenty of people who have stayed who did consistently bad but did well in the extermination challenge. And that's happened. That's been a thing. But this really felt this time like, well, how are we gonna get rid of our front runner for fumbling once when she's done so good other times? I think the big disappointment about Anna is that they've already told her, like, come out of your shell, be present. And Anna was, and then as soon as it came time for a group challenge, she sunk and disappeared. And now there is something to say about what happens when you are relegated to the side and you're not really respected. However, that is your moment to then steal the spotlight by doing something that you didn't rehearse because you want to and you don't want to lose focus. I remember I got roped into a girl group for some challenge, and I couldn't dance, and the others were sort of planning the outfits and everything around what they wanted to do and weren't thinking about me. And it got to the day of, and we started practicing, and the dance was not something I could keep up with. I hardly could remember the moves. I did not feel confident at all. And I really felt like I was an afterthought because even the things that I was bringing up that I wanted to fix, they didn't want to do. And they didn't want to adjust anything around me. They just said, make it work. And me being a professional just made it work. I still didn't remember any of the moves. I couldn't remember the choreography. I hardly knew my lyrics because it was not a song that I would normally listen to, but I faked it. And when we got to the actual challenge and we were there in front of everyone, I improv'd 2 or 3 things. I did a couple spins, I did a couple poses, I stopped in places I was not supposed to stop, and I just allowed people to look at me, and I sort of made it about me. And at the very end, when we were done, I did something to steal the spotlight. I didn't do anything crazy, but it was enough that people remembered me. And afterwards, I had a person come up to me and say, because of what I was doing that was different from the others, they remembered me. They looked at what I was doing and they wanted to give me more money that wasn't going to be shared with the rest of the group. And that felt really good because I didn't feel confident in the challenge. I didn't feel like I had any part in the choreography or the look or even the song choice. So for me, I think in a situation where you are trapped in a scenario that you don't want to be in, you have to just make it work somehow. You have to figure out how to make that portion work for you. And in that moment, Anna just didn't do that. And even though nobody else really did on that team, Anna was the worst one, right next to Neo. Anna disappeared. I also thought that Blackberry disappeared, and I thought that Fantasia should have been punished for not considering everybody in the group. Again, I think they all should have been up for extermination, but I still think Anna would have gone home. It wouldn't have changed a thing about the episode. I think the only one who could have maybe gone home this week would have maybe been Cynthia. But Cynthia was on the winning team and objectively did a great job. So I think I'm just upset that someone who I've looked up to as a drag icon for over a decade is gone now. And I just wish that it hadn't gone down that way. I wish that Anna could have made it to the top 4 because I think Anaphylactic is an icon, a legend, a star, and needs to be celebrated for all the things that she's done. I want the world to know who Anna is, and I want them to look up to her in the way that I and many other drag performers that love her do. But unfortunately, that wasn't her run, and I'm very sad to see her go, and I think I'm gonna be really disappointed that I don't know who to add as my thumbnail anymore. And honestly, I think right now, it's pretty clear to me that Fantasia is going to make it at least to top 5. I would be gooped if she didn't. I almost get the feeling that maybe next out is going to be Cynthia or Blackberry. And I get the feeling that they really are going to try everything they can do to not let Neo fall into the bottom again. So at this point, Jay and Throb are some of my favorites, and I really hope that they're able to really make it work for the next couple episodes because I want to see them in the top 3. I want to see Throb up there and I want to see Jay up there despite all the odds. Going home first and then being in the top 3 would be such an incredible moment, I think, for him. I'm so curious what y'all's thoughts are though, so please share those in the comments and remember to keep it cute. I will hopefully see you next time with another one, and thank you for watching. Hey, thank you so much for watching. If you liked the video, make sure to click that like button. And if you want to see more, hit subscribe. Goodbye.